Hello and welcome to the session on the systems of Indian philosophy. Vedanta Part 2, the Upanishads. Vedanta includes all thoughts originated out of the Upanishads. Scholars pointed out that there are many reasons for regarding the Upanishads the end of the Vedas. The Upanishads were the last literary works of Vedic era. At the Vedic period, three kinds of literature were found. Among them, the earliest were the Vedic hymns or mantras. Brahmanas were the second kinds. They were treatises guiding and encouraging Vedic rituals, and the final were the Upanishads, which discuss philosophical problems. All these were revealed texts or Shrutis and are called the Vedas. Connection with study, also the Upanishads come last. It is believed that a man's education is not complete till he receives Upanishadic teachings. The Upanishads mark the culmination of the Vedic speculation. Upanishads means that which gets man near to the teacher, or it is that which destroys ignorance and gets man near to God. The Upanishadic teachings were considered as esoteric and they were taught secretly only to the selected students who were seated close to the teacher. The Upanishads were regarded as the essence of the Vedas. That is why their teachings were also known the mystery of the Vedas or Vedopanishad. Upanishads. The Upanishads occur at the end portion of the Vedas, and so they are also known as the Vedanta. Anta means end. So, the term Vedanta suggests that Upanishads form the last phase of Vedic thought. The word end has another meaning, that is goal. In that sense, Upanishads may be taken as the essence of Vedic teachings. They are the foundations on which most of the later philosophies and religions of India rest. Max Muller compares Upanishad to the Himalayas of the soul. Just as the great mountain determines the climate, rainfall and geographical situations of the country, similarly, the Upanishads determines the spiritual wisdom of India. How many Upanishads exist is unknown. 108 have been preserved. Of the 108 Upanishads, 16 were recognized by scholars as authentic and authoritative. The 16 Upanishads recognized by the scholars are Isha, Kena, Kada, Prashna, Mundaga, Mandukya, Chandogya, Brihadaranyaka, Aitareya and Taitareya. Upanishad is a marked reaction against Brahmanas. They gave importance to the rituals. The Upanishad do not support the performance of sacrifice. They emphasize the necessity to know the nature of ultimate reality. Hence, the Upanishads are philosophical rather than religious. The Upanishads are many in number, but only 10 or 12 of them are supposed to be the genuine part of the Veda. It is difficult to determine the exact dates of the Upanishads. Regarding the author of the Upanishads also, we know very little. The word Upanishads has been interpreted in various ways by various scholars. The Upanishads themselves use the word in the sense of rahasya or secret teaching. Etymologically, the word Upanishad means sitting down near devotedly. It means sitting down near the teacher to receive instructions. Dr. S. Radhakrishnan writes, true knowledge of Brahman is called Upanishad. Upanishads are in the form of dialogue. The method of exposition was more poetic than philosophical. The language is highly symbolic. The great exponent of the philosophy of the Upanishad is Shankara. The teaching of Shankara is a natural and legitimate interpretation of the philosophy of the Upanishads. The most important thought in the philosophy of Upanishads is spiritual monism or non-dualism. Reality is declared to be non-dual, and this reality is identified with spirit or self higher than which there is nothing. Various doctrines in different stages of development can be seen in the Upanishads. The most prominent and well developed teaching may be described as the monistic, idealistic and absolutistic theory. This implies that the ultimate reality is one and it is spiritual in nature. The doctrine is idealistic because ultimate reality is non-material in nature and everything in the universe presupposes the mind. Everything shines only after the shining spirit. Through its light, all these shines. The Brahman and Atman. The Upanishadic terms for the ultimate reality are two, Brahman and Atman. These two terms have been described as the two pillars on which rest the whole edifice of Upanishad philosophy. The origin of these two terms is not clear. At first, the word Brahman meant prayer. It stands for the power which of itself burst into the utterance as prayer. The word Brahman is derived from the root word brih, which means to grow or expand. Later, the name Brahman was given to the primary principle which spontaneously manifests itself as the universe. Thus, the Upanishads use the word Brahman in the sense of supreme reality behind the universe. The interpretation of the word Atman is also ambiguous. Its aim is the discovery of a psychic principle, the inner sense of man. The word Atman originally meant breath. Then it came to be applied to whatever constitute the essential part of anything, more particularly of man, that is the inner self of man. Atman is a spiritual reality behind this world. It is from this spiritual reality all the creatures of the world emerged, and it is by this spiritual reality that all creatures have their being. Finally, all creatures are absorbed into this one spiritual reality. Thus, the terms Brahman and Atman has its own independent significance. The distinctive meaning of Brahman is the ultimate source of the outer world, while that of Atman is the inner self of man. Even though these two terms have independent significance, they are correlated. This points out that the same principle is the eternal source of the universe, including nature as well as man. Indian thinkers try to discover the unitary principle behind the universe. Along with this, one can find a seeking for the correspondence between individuals and the world. Such an attempt in explaining the unknown universal in terms of the known particular is clearly seen in the Purusha Sukta. The universe is conceived as a Jain man or Purusha. Atman, which is the innermost truth of man, becomes the innermost truth of the world in the form of cosmic soul or Brahman. At a particular state in the evolution of thought, the source of the universe, that is Brahman, was identified with the innermost essence of man, that is Atman. The identification of two outwardly different but inwardly similar conceptions into one is the essential teachings of the Upanishads. It is expressed in the great Mahavakyas Tattvamasi, I am Brahman or Aham Brahmasmi, etc. These sayings reveal the fact that the principle underlying the world as a whole and that which form the essence of man are ultimately the same. The identity between Atman and Brahman carries with it an important implication. Brahman, as the ultimate cosmic principle, is not spiritual in its nature. It carried no certainty with it. It is only a hypothesis. But when it is identified with Atman, this uncertainty disappears. Atman is spiritual in nature. By identifying Brahman with Atman, the nature of Brahman also becomes clear. That is, it becomes spiritual. If the Atman by itself is considered, it is finite. So, it cannot explain the whole of reality. But when it is identified with Brahman, which is infinite, this difficulty disappears. It is expressed in the classical phrases Sat Chit Ananda, Satyam Jnanam Anandam. So, the Upanishadic absolute is neither Brahman nor Atman in one sense, but both in another. This marks the most important advance in the whole history of Indian thought. The doctrine of idealistic monism is well explained in a celebrated section of the Chandogya Upanishad. It is in the form of a dialogue between Uddalaga and Shvetaketu. Uddalaga begins by postulating ultimate reality as spiritual. He then proceeds to describe how the whole universe is a manifestation of it. In the beginning, Sat alone was without a second. He thought, may I be many. Then suddenly Uddalaga identifies the original Sat with the self of Shvetaketu, Tattvamasi Shvetaketu. The cosmic view and the acosmic view. The doctrine of idealistic monism appears in two forms in the Upanishads. We find two views of Brahman. They are cosmic view and acosmic view, known respectively as Saprapancha and Nishprapancha. According to the cosmic view, the world and everyday experiences are real. According to the cosmic view, the world is unreal. The world is an illusion. It is described as Maya. We take it to be real because we are ignorant of the great truth revealed in the Upanishads. There are passages in the Upanishads which says that the world is simply an appearance and Brahman alone is real. There are also passages which grant reality to the world. Cosmic theory is explained clearly in the Chandogya Upanishad. Brahman is designated as Tajjalam, which means that which gives rise to the world, supports it and reabsorbs it. It is described as comprehending all activities, all desires, all sensations, reaching all and so self-complete. Then it is identified with the individual self. This theory states that Brahman evolves in the various objects of the universe and therefore is known as Brahma Parinamavada. The cosmic view explains the world as a result of the process of evolution. The world is evolved out of Brahman. The things of the universe are distinguished from Brahman by name and form known as Nama and Rupa. They are classified into organic and inorganic. The organic objects are the abode of the transmigrating souls or jivas. The inorganic things serve as a stage on which the organic objects or beings have to play their part. The inorganic world is constituted of 5 elements or bhutas, namely earth, water, fire, air and ether. This fivefold element combines to form various objects of the world. According to the cosmic view, all things are real because the Brahman out of which all things emerge is real. The 5 elements have their own special qualities. Earth has a special quality of smell, air has the quality of touch, fire has the quality of color, ether or akasha has the quality of sound, water has the quality of taste. The organic bodies are divided into 3 classes, namely Andaja, Jeevaja and Udbija. There is a later addition known as Shvedaja. Andaja is the organic body born from the egg, Jeevaja born from the germ, and Udbija from the soil, and Shvedaja is that which is born out of sweat. The 5 elements first emerged in subtle form, then they are known as Sukshma Bhutas. Out of these are made the gross elements, which is known as Sthula Bhutas. When an organic body is disintegrated, they are reduced to the 5 gross elements. Out of these gross elements, other living beings are born. Upanishads do not state that these gross elements go back to their subtle elements. When Brahman decides, all these objects would be returned to itself. According to the acosmic view, the existence of innumerable objects in the world is an appearance. In other words, they are not ultimately real. Brahman alone is real, and it is our ignorance that makes us see that various objects of the world instead of realizing Brahman as such. The power of Maya makes us to see the world of many objects when there is one reality. The aim of life as conceived in the Upanishads is to overcome this Maya by attaining full enlightenment. According to both cosmic and acosmic views, the final goal is realization of Brahman. The basis of the twofold teaching is found even in the pre-Upanishadic literature. These two views have been developed later on by philosophers like Shankara and Ramanuja. According to Shankara, the cosmic and acosmic views are essentially the same. The apparent distinction between the two is only because of the difference in the standpoint from which the abstract is looked at. The cosmic view is looked at from the empirical standpoint, but the acosmic from the transcendental. The cosmic view emphasizes the immanence of Brahman, and the acosmic view emphasizes the transcendental. The transcendental view emphasizes the concept of Maya. Even though it is not clearly stated in the Upanishads, it is already there. Shankara has explained and elaborated the term Maya later. Upanishadic conception of soul. The Upanishads make a distinction between two kinds of knowledge, the higher and the lower. The lower knowledge consists of all empirical sciences and arts. The 4 Vedas are also included under the category of lower knowledge. That alone is the supreme knowledge which relates to the imperishable, that is the absolute self. The supreme wisdom is the knowledge of the self. It may be said that the self is unknowable because it is the basis of all knowledge. In fact, it cannot be known as objects are known. The supreme knowledge is the knowledge of the self, which is referred to in the Upanishads as Brahman and Atman. In the Chandogya Upanishad, we find a progressive development in the definition of self through the 4 stages: 1. Bodily self, 2. Empirical self, 3. Transcendental self, and the 4. Absolute self. The Jiva may be viewed from 3 distinct levels. A. The biological level. At this level, the object of study is the body as an organism which grows and develops through assimilation of food. B. Psychological level. At this level come the conscious and unconscious activities of the individual. C. Spiritual level. Here, the self is viewed as Atman, the essence of all reality. The individual soul is called Jiva. The word Jiva is derived from the root Jiv, which means to live. It denotes both biological and psychological aspects of life. Jiva is associated with prana, the vital principle, and with the manas, which comprises intelligence and ego. The body, prana and manas together constitute the empirical aids of the self. The activities of the individual are mainly came out through 5 sense organs or Jnanendriyas and 5 motor organs or Karmendriyas. Manas controls all our organs and coordinates the different sense impression that may come from outside. In the Taittiriya Upanishad, we have interpretation of Jiva in terms of the doctrine of koshas or covered sheaths. The first is the physical sheath. It is made up of food and it is called Annamaya. Different from this, there is another more subtle sheath of the self which is made up of prana and is called Pranamaya. Different from this, there is another more subtle sheath of the self which is made up of mind or manas and is called Manomaya. Different from this is Vijnanamaya, which is made up of intelligence, and different from this is Anandamaya, the sheath of bliss. It is the innermost covering of the blissful self. In later Vedanta, the first is known as the gross body. Next 3 constitute the subtle body. These 3 together constitute the empirical form of the soul. Being conditioned by these, the soul becomes the subject of experience and enjoyment. The Mandukya Upanishads explains various states of the self. They are waking, dreaming, dreamless state and turiya. In the waking state, all the sense organs will be active. Individual is in contact with the external world. It enjoys the gross things. In dreaming state, the mind makes use of the impressions collected during the waking states to produce the dream. Here, the self enjoys subtle things. The third is the condition of sound sleep, where we have neither dreams nor desires. It is called Sushupti, and in this state, both the manas and the sense organs are inactive. This state is free from all disturbances and suffering. The Upanishads hold that the self attains temporary union with Brahman. The fourth state, namely Turiya, is not within the reach of ordinary men. It is a mystic state attained through yogic exercise. It closely resembles the dreamless state in being characterized by bliss or extreme happiness. But in deep sleep, there is no awareness, but in Turiya, there is the knowledge of the highest. The true nature of the self is revealed as the same as Brahman. This realization is moksha itself. The universal self is immanent as well as transcendent. There is nothing in the world which is not involved in the infinite self in us. The individual soul is non-different from the universal spirit. The real nature of the self cannot be known by our ordinary knowledge. The soul, in the view of the Upanishads, is not born with the body, nor does it perish with it. The existence of the physical body implies the existence of something apart from which the mechanism of the body would be meaningless, that is, the soul. In the narrow span of our life, we cannot reap the fruit of all our actions. So, we have to admit a transmigrating soul who suffers and enjoys the consequences of our present actions. The wise one is not born nor dies it die. What happens at death is only the destruction of the physical body. Moksha or release is the goal of every soul, and release consists in the soul's freedom from the end to be reborn. The practical teachings of the Upanishads. The Upanishadic ethics points out that evil is the result of ajnana or metaphysical error. Evil is a tendency to take unreal for the real. Virtue depends upon knowledge, and this corresponds to the Socratic dictum that virtue is knowledge. Selfishness arises when an individual regards himself as distinct and different from others. Such a man regards one's own interest as superior to the interest of others, and he will do anything to safeguard his own interest. This brings about all evil. The ahankara, implying the consciousness of the self as distinct and different from others, becomes the basis of all narrow-mindedness, selfishness and cruelty. Such degeneration is due to ajnana. One imagines what does not belong to the self as the reality belonging to it. A proper knowledge of the self is essential for discrimination between the real and the unreal. This knowledge is pure jnana. It can be attained only through vigorous self-discipline. The discipline has two stages, namely vairagya and jnana. Vairagya aims at the development of character on the basis of detachment. Vairagya results from the eradication of narrow, selfish impulses, which presupposes the training of the individual in varnashrama dharma. Each caste has its own dharma. Similarly, there are 4 stages of life. Each stage in life has a specific set of duties to be performed by the individual. The duties of different castes and different dharmas are known as varnashrama dharma. Training in varnashrama dharma is strenuous. The individual has to put forth all his efforts steadily to root out all narrow impulses. The person who has successfully passed through brahmacharya, garhastya and vanaprastha spontaneously become a sannyasi. The man who has attained the highest level of moral development is fit for the second stage known as jnana. Jnana consists of 3 stages: Sravana, Manana and Dhyana or Nididhyasana. Sravana is a stage of formal study. The truth as taught in the Upanishads should be learned from a proper guru. This stage of training is called Sravana. Guru is the embodiment of all virtues and he directs the student towards the highest goal of life. The second stage is known as Manana, which stands for reflection. Sravana is followed by Manana, which is continued reflection on what has been learned at the feet of Guru. This leads to Dhyana or meditation. Manana gives intellectual conviction by destroying doubts that arise in the mind of the disciple. Once he becomes convinced of the correctness of the teaching, meditation starts. This stage directly assists the individual in getting realization of the ultimate reality. Upanishads holds that mere intellectual conviction is not enough to make one realize the ultimate truth. Contemplation on the ultimate truth taught by the Guru and of which he is intellectually convinced makes him realize the identity between Atman and Brahman. This experience is described as pratyaksha anubhava or darshana. It is intuitive perception and not sense perception. Successful meditation is possible only after much practice. The mystic symbol Om is selected as the fit object for continuous meditation. The soul in its real nature is free and divine. For man, freedom comes with his knowledge of the true self and in realizing this true nature of the self. Moksha may be attained in this life or it may be reached after death. Both these forms of liberations are recognized in the Upanishads. The first one is called Jivan Mukti or liberation attained in this life. When ignorance, which is the cause of bondage, is dispelled by wisdom, the soul realized its non-difference from Brahman and this is release. Therefore, for this the self need not wait till the decay of the body. The second form of liberation is called Videha Mukti or freedom after death. In this, the man realizes the highest knowledge of the self and its identity with Brahman only at the time of death. Liberation, whether it is gained in this life or after death, puts an end to rebirth once for all. The Upanishads also preach us karma mukti. This is the attainment of moksha by stages, that is through different lives as the result of good action. Even if one is not conscious of moksha, one can attain karma mukti if one is virtuous enough. This implies the law of karma. It means that nothing can happen without a cause in the moral as well as in the physical world. The law of karma does not imply total determinism. The knowledge of this law serves as an intensive to right contact. The belief in the karma doctrine forms a characteristic feature of Upanishadic teaching. Now, let us summarize. Upanishads form the last phase of Vedic thought. They are the foundations on which most of the later philosophies and religions of India rest. The most important thought in the philosophy of Upanishads is spiritual monism or non-dualism. Here are some questions for you to work out. 1. Explain the importance of Upanishads in Indian philosophy. 2. Explain the Upanishadic concept of Brahman and Atman. 3. Explain the cosmic view and acosmic view. 4. Explain the Upanishadic conception of soul. 5. What are the practical teachings of the Upanishads? There are some books for your further reference. 1. Critical Survey of Indian Philosophy, C.D. Sharma, Motilal Banarsidass Publishers, 2009. 2. Indian Philosophy, Dr. S. Radhakrishnan, Oxford University Press, 1923. 3. Spirit of Indian Philosophy, Banerjee, Curzon Press, 1975. 4. Structural Depths of Indian Philosophy, P. T. Raju, South Asian Publishers, New Delhi, 1985. 5. Outlines of Indian Philosophy, M. Hiriyanna, Motilal Banarsidass Publishers, 1993. Thank you for watching this session. See you next time. Take care.